When deciding to rig my depth finder for my kayaks, I wanted to be able to have it completely removable and be able to install it on both kayaks without any difficulty. Problem one was to find a low profile electrical power connector that would interface between the battery box and also install an interface on the kayaks. I found a connector on Hook One's website. It seems to do the job. The only problem with it is that the screws that attach the wires in the back are a bit soft, and so if you don't have the correct Phillips when you put that on, you'll strip those screw heads out. I ended up soldering the connection anyway, but you just had to be very, very careful with that connector and using the right size Phillips head screwdriver and the amount of pressure you put on it. I found some supple 2-wire speaker wire to use as my harness inside the kayak, and I then soldered each connector on each end, the male end on for inside the kayak and the female end attached to the kayak itself as the interface to the depth finder to the kayak. And I made 2 of those, 1 for each kayak, and installed them. On my Cuda, I used a 1.5-inch ram mount ball mount bolted directly to the kayak. I also used a piece of gear track from Yak Attack to attach a transducer arm that Mad Frogs makes. This allows me to swing the arm up out of the way. It allows me to take the arm off very quickly. And it makes my whole depth finder setup completely removable. If I don't want to use my depth finder, if I'm in a river, then I don't have to. If I want to use my other kayak, I can mount the depth finder on that kayak. So this is kind of how I did it. And on my ride, I basically did the same thing. It has a built-in slide tracks, and I used a Mighty mount with a 1.5-inch ball mount. And then you see right there where I put the electrical connector. And so the transducer arm will slide down on the slide tracks, and my depth finder will then install on the kayak on the 1.5-inch ball mount. This gives me the freedom, like I said, to be able to completely remove the depth finder from either kayak, install it on either kayak, or not even run with a depth finder. I made a quick video to show how easy it is to install on the ride and then take it off and go mount it on the Cuda. So here's the first thing I do. I put the battery box in the kayak and connect the harness that's already stays in the kayak at all times. Take the transducer and mount, which are actually connected by the transducer cable. Slide the arm in the slide tracks. Hook up the power cable. Mount the head onto the assembly, and power it on. Now I'm going to remove it from the ride, and I'm going to take it over and install it on the Cuda. Mount it onto the ball mount, plug in the electrical connection, and then mount the transducer arm onto the piece of slide tracks that I have there. And pretty much it's done, except got to put the battery in the Cuda. Put the battery box in the hull, connect up the connector, and power the unit on. And that's how easy it is. And that's what I wanted to do, was be able to use it in 2 kayaks and be completely removable.
So there we are, and you can see how the transducer mounts along the side. If it gets tangled on something, I can just click it up, kick it out of the way, swing it back, put it back down.
Okay, just real quick, a close-up of the mount on the Cuda. A piece of gear track from Yak. That's a 1-inch ball mount there. I can mount a camera there, but mainly for the depth finder mount, I used a 1.5-inch mount, RAM mount, and then there's the electrical connection. And then on my Ride 115, I used a 1.5-inch screwball mount from Yak. They already had the slide tracks built in, so I can slide that, position my depth finder anywhere I want along that track to get the best reach. I also use that track to connect up the transducer arm